So Frederick Douglass escaped from slavery in 1838 and became the most famous orator of the 19th century, probably second only to Abraham Lincoln. And he wrote on so many topics, but I'm so interested in what he had to say about technology. Franklin lived in the great age of progress, and he believed that technological change was tending toward the equality of human beings, that things like photography made it possible for people to see one another's common humanity. I don't have that faith, but I find it fascinating in Douglas. I guess I don't think of technology as an actor in itself. And historians tend to be pretty skeptical of arguments that attribute change to technology alone, as if technology drives change, when really it's the people who choose to pursue particular technological paths that are driving change. And I don't think that people are necessarily pursuing equality, or else we wouldn't be burdened with the widening income inequality that is a worldwide problem right now. So I don't have any particular reason to have faith that the people who are driving technological change are pursuing the vision that Douglas thought technology itself was yielding to. No, technology alone won't do it. I mean, even if you think about the project that Facebook is most recently engaged in with trying to mitigate the spread of so-called fake news across its social media platforms, that spread can't be halted by a mere machine, right? It's not conducted by machines, it's aided by machines, and its spread could be slowed by machines, but there needs to be a much deeper human commitment to a different kind of communication than Facebook represents to reach that goal. The practice of lynching was widely photographed from the 1890s through the 1930s. Lynching photographs were sold commercially. People used them as photographs to mail to one another. There were cartes de visite that were photographs of lynchings. Lynching was very well seen, but I don't know that historians of lynching have ever identified those photographs as being a driver toward the eradication of the practice. Frankly, they go in the other direction. So the exposure of something does not inherently contain a critique of it, right? Now, you might say, what? But obviously the exposure of those episodes of police brutality does contain a critique of it. I'm not so sure that that inheres in the photograph itself. That's those videos stand on the back of a political movement. They don't carry a particular meaning outside of the existence of that movement.
From Chicago, Illinois. My name is Jorge Fialo. You know, everybody seems to want something to help us be better when we need to take the responsibility of doing that ourselves. Technology is just a tool. We are the ones who decide whether we want to be equal, we want to help each other. I mean, that is not going to change. It's not changing with tweeting or Facebook or whatever other kind of thing that you are using. It's just get the news quickly to people. People going to do whatever they want to. And they're going to treat people the way, I don't know, the way they see it. I mean, until people start taking the responsibility about, if I treat somebody different, other people will treat me different. But people don't live by the golden rule, do unto others as they will do to you. So technology never is going to help us be equal, because that is our job. Until we start taking responsibility for that, it's not going to work.
Technology, like everything else, is only as good as the people using it. Technology can be a change agent in bringing about equality, or technology can be a tool of suppression. It all depends whose hand the technology is in.
Technology as a driver or not of equality, I think, is a really interesting question. On the one hand, blind people have got access to much more information far more cheaply and far more instantaneously than they've ever had it before. With the advent of, well, most recently, obviously, smartphones and ebooks and accessible apps. If you think that probably less than 5% of published works ever made it into hard copy Braille, and for those that could even read Braille, that's not much access. But now, you can listen to pretty much any book that happens to be an ebook on Kindle or iBooks and read it on a Braille display, and that has world of work benefits as well. But then you get the other side of technology, which is that actually it has made some jobs much more difficult to do. So if you take the role of a call centre, I know that you started this out on a 19th century premise, so call centres themselves would be technology. But that aside, call centre job used to be telephonist, that sort of thing used to be perfectly doable occupation by a blind person. But now so much of it is digital, so much of the software that drives the call centre operations is inaccessible, and even if it's scripted, then the software might be upgraded. So locking blind people back out of the labour market, and that's not to mention the sort of the low skilled workers that technology's replaced. And while everyone says, well, technology's labour saving, isn't it, and it'll be good, and obviously there are jobs in technology and well paid digital jobs, but the benefits don't trickle down to the people whose jobs technology took away. So I don't think it is clear cut. I mean, I think the advances in technology are on balance a good thing. I think I'm better served and put on a more equal footing with my non-blind peers because of the existence of technology than I would be had that technology not existed. But that won't be the same for everyone. I think it's almost like it's like free trade, isn't it? There are winners and losers in that scenario. So I'm not sure it is necessarily clear cut. It probably depends on who you are and what you do. I don't think it's as simple as Jonathan puts it, as technology. It purely depends on who uses it. I think it depends also on what the technology is, as well as the people that use it. But yes, I'll be interested to see what other responses you get.
Yeah, I think technology's come a long way since then. I mean, you could do a lot of stuff with photographs and all. It's amazing, And amateur radio is also a good way to communicate. That's how they communicated, way back before they had, telephones. You had the telegraph kit, which was Morse code. Before that, you had the spark transmissions. So, radio was around for a long, long time. And the first voice transmission was done in 1906. So, anyway, that's a bit ahead as far as technology. And now we got iPhones and Androids and all this other stuff. So, technology's come a long way.
Well, technology itself does not lead to liberation. Technology itself does not lead to equality. It is how the technology is used. The technology is used in a good way, then it is and can be a rather liberating and equal booster standard. If it is used in a negative way, it will actually downgrade you. Let's say you were well off, then you get your fancy little, iPad. And instead of you using it for safety stuff or, recipes or maybe doing your hair or, looking up how to do your hair, whatever, you use it for something with negative connotations. Maybe you get into a Satanistic cult, or maybe you learn how to make bombs and become a terrorist, whatever. Okay, so it depends on how the technology is used. Now, my personal belief, besides that, the way I use my technology is a very liberating and equalitating system. Because I can use my iPhone, and I love taking pictures. I can send them to people, and they can look at those and go, wow, you took that picture? It's hard to believe that a blind person can now be a photographer or a videographer. Well, you shot that video? It's hard to believe that a blind person can look at radar. Well, I see a storm coming, and it looks to be, touching down here at about 8 o'clock tonight. You can see that stuff? Yes. Well, how do you do it? My technology. My technology allows me to see these things. So it's because of that now I can get involved with organizations such as the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And that's the beauty of it. Yes, I'm still blind, but the technology is letting me get into the sighted world. Okay? You couldn't have done that 100 years ago. You couldn't have done that 100 years ago. It's just not possible. So, that's just the way it is. So that's a really good question. Thank you for your question, and I appreciate it. This is KC3CDV James in Pennsylvania, saying, may the good Lord Jesus bless you.
Hi there, God bless you. Will technology lead to equality? I think to a degree it does, because as a blind person, I can take a photo. Now, what can I do with that photo? Well, I can send that photo to people in NASA. They say, oh, well, you cannot work with us, because you're blind. But can I utilize the technology that's in front of me to work with them anyhow? Yes. And then it kind of just stuns them, I can work with them as an amateur radio operator, regardless of my blindness. But, and look, amateur radio is a form of technology. So that kind of breaks down barriers. And then I'm working with their Earth Sciences team at the Goddard Space Flight Research Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. And how am I doing this? Well, I'm doing it with the advent of this technology that's been placed in front of me. God has really blessed me. He gave me this technology and he showed me how to use it. And so I am blessed by God every day that I wake up. I'm able to take my photos and I'm able to upload those photos to my contacts at NASA should I need to. Or I can take the photos and put them up on Instagram for people to enjoy. So, you have so much that technology has given you the ability to do. And it does break down barriers. Yes, you're right when you say that it's the people behind the technology. But the people behind the technology don't necessarily realize how other people are going to utilize their technology. A good example is an app called TapTapSee. Now, TapTapSee is an application that is built for the blind to take a photo of what's in front of them. Okay? So the developer's idea was for the app to be used to identify cans, identify money, identify this, and identify that. I severely doubt that they ever thought that a blind person from Pennsylvania would take their app and utilize it to the degree of sending photos to contacts at NASA. Okay, so this is just a very valuable example of how technology has made it so as companies like NASA are able to utilize people who are blind, are able to utilize people who are, with some type of a physical or mental handicap. Technology has made it so possible for blind people to become valuable assets not only in the communities that they live in, but possibly even around the world. Because as a blind person, I can take a photo and I can put that photo up on Twitter and Instagram for people to enjoy, as I said. But there's another part to this that I didn't touch on, which is YouTube. You know how many people are being discovered daily on YouTube? And so, when I do a YouTube video, and I put, somewhere in the comment, because people are asking about it, my blindness, they're astounded. And why? Because they never thought that a blind person could do video. So, you can kind of see how technology is breaking down those stereotypical barriers that are placed upon blind people, that are placed upon deaf people, that are placed upon all these different minority groups. And the technology enables those to be broken down and allows the person who is at the blunt end of the stereotypical joke or what have you, to utilize the technology to say, look, I might be blind, but here's how I get around this. I might be deaf, but here's how I get around this. Remember, your disability is only a disability in your own mind. Okay? And you can quote me on that. Your disability is only a disability in your own mind. I'm blind. Yes, that's a fact. But am I going to let that blindness stop me? No. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. And so, that is how I view this whole thing. Hope it helps. God bless.
Well, equality is a very generalized and almost at times a little dangerous word to use. It makes people think that there will be an ideal society, which honestly there can't really be, mainly because of the way people are. Can we have equal representation, equal agency? Yeah, we can have things like that. We can have, and when that happens, that's almost a little better in some aspects, because then you have, you have sides, that are getting what they need. And it's hard, equality in itself, the way people think of equality is, like I said, it's very, very super extreme. It's like it's an extremist point of view. Not that people shouldn't get paid similarly or equal amount, and that people shouldn't be treated the same. Just the way people look at equality and the way people generalize equality, that's the things that get a little dangerous and muddy about this aspects of equality, or that technology brings equality.
Yes, technology can be used for equality, but however, technology is a tool, and just as a screwdriver is a tool that should be used to screw in screws, there are some that will use it to stab someone in the chest. Photographs is a technology. It's a tool that can be used to save memories, to entertain, but some will use it to blackmail and control. Television is a great technology, and also it's used as a tool, such as by the media, to separate everyone into little groups and turn those groups on each other, because after all, that's what brings ratings up. That's what sells magazines. That's what sells newspapers. So, yes, television could be used as a tool to promote equality, such as how far race relations have come, such as an LGBT group that is now equal in the eyes of the law and not acceptable to be picked on or beat on, and not acceptable to deny job opportunities. But however, the media also uses that to create division. So, yes, technology could absolutely lead to equality, but instead it's used to promote division. But that's not the birth of the technology of television itself that's done that. It's the people who are controlling that technology in an evil way. So basically, that's about the best way I can answer your question.
Hi, it's Mark in Edmonton, and in a perfect world, I'd like to say yes. But in the world that we live in, I have my doubts. Because although the iPhone has become more accessible over the years, and with voiceover, a huge move forward by Apple so blind people can use the phone, app developers don't necessarily keep up with accessibility. Therefore, we're not on equal ground. You can have an app that works one day, an app developer comes out with an improvement which works for the masses, but because they haven't taken into account the coding to set it up properly for voiceover, it may function somewhat or not at all. An improvement for the masses may not be an improvement for those of us who are visually impaired and use voiceover. This happens a lot. So we're not on equal ground. I've always said one handicapped person's benefit could be a detriment to a person with another handicap. Case in point, the ramps on corners of streets. They're not necessarily lined up with the corners so that when you go to do a street crossing as a blind person, you end up where you want to be. Yet they're a benefit to people in wheelchairs. So, it's not really thought through, maybe at the best 100%. So, equal ground? No. So there you go. I rest my case. It would be nice. I forget who it was, AFB, American Foundation for the Blind, or NFB, that put a resolution forward at one of their conventions about a year ago to have Apple make developers have their apps accessible. And that one is out there, and people have debated that resolution ever since. Good idea? Absolutely. To have to force developers to do it? I don't know. It would be nice, but it would leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, I think. Ideally, as a blind person, yes, I'd love them. I'd love it to be able to have that happen. But is it the right thing to do? I'm not sure.
It would be a really nice idea if the thought of the progression of technology would lead to the equality of man, but I doubt this is ever going to happen. As globalization increases, I still don't think that this form of media is ever going to lead to equality at all. Whilst technology opens up a window for people to see what's happening across the world, we can see things that are happening across the world within seconds of the event by using an iPhone and Facebook and such like. But I don't think this is going to mean that people will ever be equal across the world. It's a nice idea, but no, I don't think that would ever happen. There's always going to be people that have more money, not that that leads to intelligence or power. People that have power are the ones that sort of control the world, whether they're intelligent or not. So I just don't think something such as the media, as technology, is ever going to make people equal to one another.
I wish it would, but I fear it's not going to. I am definitely afraid of the results of technology.
Things like Snapchat?
Well, no. I was thinking more along the lines of things like Big Brother is watching you, and Big Brother will take over the world via technology. It's prophesied in the Bible, and it'll take about 200 years, but yes, it will happen. I don't think it's going to happen in the lifetimes that people are now living here, but I believe that in about 200 years, Big Brother will have taken over, and thank goodness it won't be long lasting, but it will be a very intense time period.